Hi everyone, this is Gary Wilson and welcome to tonight's live webinar. This is the Investor Agent webinar, and I believe we have some other folks on who've been through the Investor Agent training program, as well as some others like flipping for profits and turning rental problems, flipping for profits and rental problems without the pain, rental profits without the pain, This one, what I'm going to teach you from tonight is one of the other books about property management, and we haven't really done that much. We have from time to time, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into a little bit tonight, a little bit next week, and then we're going to have a special session just on property management coming up here, probably within the next 4 weeks, more than likely within the next 2 to 3 weeks. And for those of you who have a strong interest in that going forward, you think that's going to be part of your future business model, you'll definitely want to tap into that. It'll be a separate session, separate from the weekly webinars. Probably be like an hour and a half, 2 hours long. So in any case, we'll get into that later. But once again, welcome aboard to all the new folks. A little bit of housekeeping here. This is live. This is being recorded. So you're going to get the good, the bad, and the ugly. We do share questions on your question box. From time to time, I will unmute you, okay, and bring you on live depending on the circumstances. And we usually can do that with one person at a time, okay? And we have a wonderful eclectic mix of people literally from all over the country. We've got people who have been through more than a year ago, like Grace, for example. Grace, we're so glad that you keep sharing on here. It's wonderful that you do that. And we have, hey, Alyssa from Whittier, California. How you doing? Welcome aboard. And a lot of newer folks, really from New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana. I'm trying to think where else I've been. I've been so many places. But in any case, welcome aboard. Coming up here, I'm wrapping up my week in the New York and northern New Jersey region. This Friday will be the last day here. I've been up here for this will be a total of 6 weeks in this region, actually. Coming up, I will be heading, next week will be a very light week. I'm actually traveling to Kentucky to speak at one of our investor agents' monthly workshops. His name's Daniel David. He's been doing this for greater than a year, and he does the workshop. He now has 140 people in his group, and I'm going to speak to his group next Wednesday, a week from tomorrow night, and I'll be teaching in Louisville that day, and then the remainder of the week after travel, I'm going to my parents, and I'm driving my mother down to her 60th high school reunion on the weekend of the 23rd through 26th. That week after that, I will be in North Carolina. Actually, I'll be there in North Carolina that week and the first week of October, and South Carolina the second week of October. So in any case, that's where I'll be. For any of you folks who were in the Carolinas, I did teach there back in April and May. So if you'd like me to stop in and visit one of your workshops, like I'm doing for Daniel, I'll be glad to do it. Just let me know. Or if you'd like to meet for dinner, obviously let me know that too. So in any case, welcome aboard, everybody. Let's go ahead and get started here. I'm going to check real quick your question box just to make sure we don't have anything open. Oh, good. The lines did disappear. Hallelujah. How about that? Okay. So Andrew is asking, the opportunity evaluator seems to have no pre-populated formulas. Do we need to add the formulas, or am I just missing them? Actually, they do. So Andrew, I'm not sure. Yeah, all of the cells are there. By the way, the coding is encrypted on the opportunity evaluator. And for those of you who don't know what that is, if you haven't gotten your second module yet, it's the Excel spreadsheet we use to analyze rental properties. And the formulas in there, all the cells are encrypted, so we can't even change them. So Andrew, if you should have Microsoft Excel version of that, an actual live real-time version, where you can type in on the left-hand side, for example, all of your expenses, and then at the very top on the right, you can key in your purchase information, followed by your mortgage information, and the block below that. And the block below that is all your rents. So if you're not able to do that, please email Beverly or me right away. I'm not sure why, because it's same one we've had for years, and it's been working all along. So in any case, keep us informed on that, Andrew, if you wouldn't mind. Okay, let's get into the subject tonight, guys. And again, always remember this, particularly the new folks. Every one of these is recorded, and not only is it recorded, it's housed on your member section of the website, cataloged by subject type, so you can go in there and literally download all the recordings onto your hard drive and keep them forever. Okay, so you want to go back. I suggest you go through them, pick out the ones you really want to focus in on, and do that. We have a lot of students who do that on a regular basis. Okay. And again, back to the class tonight. Tonight we're going to talk about just one piece of managing your own properties. Okay. And the reason we do it this way is we assume at some point many of you are going to want to launch property management. Okay. And just like anything else in life, you generally don't want to go out there and launch something from scratch without having some experience. So the first thing we have you do is just manage a handful of properties, whether they're your own or one of your clients. You want to start small. Always start small. Always learn small. Okay, because if you're going to miss things and have some missteps, you want to do it on a small scale. And then once you're smooth operating, you've got your systems down, then you can expand and open up to the public. And there's a lot more to that. We'll get to that in a little bit. Okay, but initially, at least in every state where I've looked, which is just about every state and every province. And it's a little bit different in Canada, okay? Let's talk about the states first. In the states, typically any person can manage properties for one other person, even without a license, as long as it's only one other person you're serving. Okay, as soon as you start to serve two or more people in the field of property management, you then have to have a license. Now, if you have only an agent's license, then you have to have your license, obviously, with a broker. That's true no matter what anyways. In most states and provinces, you have to have your agent license hung in a broker's office. The other option is that you're a broker yourself, and then you can obviously manage properties, okay? In any case, a lot more to that. So let's assume right now you're starting to get some sales coming in. Some of those are from landlords, and they start asking you, can you manage your properties? You can say yes to one of them without having to go through a bunch of red tape, and you should be okay. Now, you always want to keep your broker informed of what you're doing, okay? They're managing properties for one person is not a big deal. It's not an issue. But again, as soon as you manage for two or more, all of a sudden you have a different status in the eyes of the state, and they're going to deem you to be a professional and you're a service provider. You're basically a dealer status, and you have to have E&O insurance, errors and omissions insurance, that will properly cover you and your broker and your client. Okay. So in any case, I've run across people. As a matter of fact, it happened this week. Somebody said he was managing a handful of properties for a handful of people. And I gave him a little bit of guidance kind of off to the side, and I said, you really got to be careful. I'm not trying to tell you what to do and not what to do. I'm just want to tell you that right now you're outside the sphere of what's considered reasonable and also where you have protection. And he just simply wasn't aware of it. So in any case, let's assume you're starting small. You've got your own properties, or you're managing for one other person. Okay, we're going to go over this section here, section 2. Okay. That's going to talk about getting started, the process. Screening is one of the most critical process. Matter of fact, it's probably the most critical process in property management is screening. Marketing and advertising, how do you attract good prospective tenants without having to spend a lot of money? We're going to talk about Section 8, seems to be a pretty hot topic almost everywhere I go. And then also charitable organizations. A little bit separate subject from Section 8. Section 8 is basically a section of the housing code from Housing and Urban Development that was established through legislature, through the House of Representatives and the Senate. Okay, legislature creates these things. This is called Section 8. And Section 8 refers to the tenants, not the properties. Okay, so we'll get into that here in a little bit. And then we're going to stop at that. Next week we'll get into a little bit more nitty-gritty detail. Okay, the lease, deposits, protected classes, pet smokers, so forth and so on. So we're going to break it up into 2 major chunks. Okay, and for those of you who have really strong interest, there's a section called Life in the Trenches, which is real life stories. And I strongly encourage you to read that before you jump into property management in a big way. In fact, all of you have access to that book anyways for free. You don't have to pay for it. Again, it's called Turning Rental Problems into Real Estate Profits. We'll make sure you guys get the book. How about that? Instead of you having to ask for it, we'll just send it out. And then some of you last week said you do have a strong interest in this subject. I can't remember who that was, but you need to let me know through an email. And what we'll do is maybe when we do the webinar just on the subject, it'll be separate from these weekly ones. We'll bring you in and maybe make you live on that. So, in any case, let's jump into it. Let me check real quick one more time here. I think we're caught up. So hang on to your hats. I'm going to reduce my panel and go down to page 7. So hang on. Let's see. I believe it's page 7. We're getting close. And here we are. Okay, getting started managing your own rentals. In your case, could be managing for a few other people. All right, first and foremost, just like in sales, in brokerage for sales, you have to feel, think, speak, and act like a business person. Okay, and in any business, what that means is you're going to have systems. Okay, so I want you to start writing some things down here. Some of the systems you're going to have are accounting, number 1, bookkeeping, number 2. All right, and I wish they could all be alphabetical like this, but they're not. Okay, accounting, bookkeeping, maintenance and repairs is another system. And again, this doesn't necessarily mean software systems or computer systems. It simply means processes and procedures. Okay, so and speaking of processes and procedures, we actually give you, if you decide to do this on a larger scale, we'll take you through a separate program that's focused just on that. It takes about 8 weeks. And we literally will give you the processes and procedures, right? Policies and procedures, excuse me. In any case, back to systems. You have systems for hiring people. You have systems, again, for maintenance and repairs. You have systems for advertising and marketing. You have systems for screening. You have systems for evictions. You have systems for turnovers. Systems for the acquisition of new properties. Systems for the sale of your client's properties. Let's say they sell a property. What happens then? You have systems for everything. And when you want to establish those systems is when you're operating on a small scale. I know you might be thinking, well, why would I have all these systems if I only have 10 units? And the reason is you need to systematize and automate on a small scale so that you can correctly, efficiently, successfully, and profitably bring in additional business. Okay, you don't want to start small and do everything manually and keep everything in your head because it's small. You can do that, obviously, and still be successful, but you're not creating the platform that you need to expand and allow you to grow by adding new clients and new tenants. That's why you have to have systems. And at the same time, you certainly don't want to start off with 100 clients and then develop your systems. You've got to have systems in place. Well, the best way to develop systems, guys, is to do it when you're small. Do it with your 10 clients, or excuse me, your 10 renters. Okay, 1 client, 10 renters. So I rattled off all those systems pretty rapid fire, but just remember accounting, bookkeeping, marketing and advertising. Okay, maintenance and repairs, hiring and firing. Okay. Client acquisition, adding properties, okay, releasing properties when clients sell properties. All right, and those are really the main ones there. So, in any case, just write those down. So, in any case, let's move forward here. I will tell you this, by the way, the systems that you have for 100 units may not work well for having a 1,000 units. Okay. Now, that's going to throw some of it for a loop because you're going to be wondering, okay, well, I've already built these systems. Why do I have to change them when I go to a much larger client base? And it's just one of those things you just have to experience. But trust me, I'll give you an example. There's a system called PropertyWare that we really highly recommend. We've used it. It works great. It's like right now it's like the Cadillac of all property management systems that are out there. In the beginning, though, you don't necessarily need Propertyware. You do need something like QuickBooks, for example. Okay, you need QuickBooks to keep track of debits and credits, basically income and expenses for you and your clients. Well, you can do that with QuickBooks. QuickBooks is very well designed. It lends itself well to people who run properties. In fact, they have QuickBooks Pro that allows you to expand and take on a lot more clients down the road. It's a pretty neat program. Now, let's say you get into the 1,000 units. Sometime before that, you want to look at the system called Propertyware. Okay, it's an excellent property management system. Maybe once you get past 100 units, you start looking at Propertyware. All right, you can look at it beforehand, but it may be cost prohibitive. You might not have the ends to justify the means. But in any case, just beware that there are thresholds in growth that they're like glass ceilings that you're going to have to kind of crash through. One of those ceilings is around 100 to 150 units. Another level is somewhere between 400 and 500 units, and then again in 1,000 units. Okay. Now, once you're past 1,000 units, you're up and running. You're rocking and rolling, and you're probably good all the way till you get 10,000 units if you ever do get there, right? And believe it or not, we actually have people who already have over 1,000 units. So just be informed. This is not only possible, it's very likely, because you're in the business of serving investors, and then just know that they're going to grow. And not all of them, but they're going to grow, and you're going to grow with them. Okay. So in any case, systems vitally important. All right. So let's talk about one of the processes. This is the process of acquiring properties in your portfolio of ones that you're managing. Okay. The area that you operate in is absolutely critical. And what I want you to do is I want you to, whenever you have a moment, if you haven't done it for a while, go back to Module 1 of the Investor Agent Training Program, or if you've done the flipping program or the program on buying rentals, the front end is the same for all three. We just kind of customize a little bit. You want to go over that front end again, because it helps you determine the best types of properties in the best neighborhoods in the best areas. So when you do that, okay, and you're working with your clients, you're going to know that you or your client are acquiring the best properties in the best areas. Again, not the most expensive, not the cheapest, but the ones that are predetermined to turn the best profit for you and your clients. Okay. Well, those would be the ones you're going to manage. So when you start to expand and you're looking to take on additional clients, you use that information to help you attract people from those same areas. They might not be brokerage clients of yours at the moment. In other words, they haven't used you to buy and sell properties, but they can certainly use you for property management, which leads me to one of the big key benefits of doing this. And I want you to please write this down. Let's take a quick pause here. Everybody, please get your pens or pencils, okay? And write this down. Starting property management is not just about earning additional income, fee income, through the process of leverage. It absolutely is a critical piece of it. I mean, don't get me wrong. We're in this for profit. Okay, we're not doing this to be a nonprofit. We're doing this for profit. So yes, absolutely, you're looking to generate additional streams of income, but one of those should be property management. But one of the other points of leverage is this, guys. It is the fact that when you have property management, you can acquire other clients through the use of property management, through the marketing of your property management. You can acquire clients who simply are introduced to you through the process of you managing their properties, and then all of a sudden they become your sales representative. They become your broker for them buying and selling properties and not just managing properties. So you see what I'm saying here? It's a leverage point within a leverage point. You're compounding your leverage point by a factor of 2. You work with people who buy rentals. You start managing their properties. You start managing properties. You grow big. You expand your operations. You bring on additional clients because you already have property management. Then those clients become your sales clients as a result. It's another form of leverage, exactly going back to the source. Okay? And here's the second part I want you to write down. It's not just the property owners that are a source of leverage for you, but all of those tenants, a certain percentage of them are going to want to eventually buy their own home, and they become your sales clients too. So that's another point of leverage with just in the world of property management, that you started because you started serving landlords, and you started doing that because you got your license and took this program. So I just want to, that's the whole thing I just did there, guys. The purpose is, the intention is to expand your field of vision, all right, expand your horizon. I had this conversation with a student today, and she's just stuck in limiting belief. She, loves the program, wants to take it, but is afraid she won't, she'll miss meetings and things like that. I'm like, well, that's something you got to solve no matter what you do in life. I mean, if you can't wake up and show up, it doesn't matter what you do. You're going to have an issue. That's an internal beast she's got to slay. The point I'm getting to here is this. This makes it easy for you to get up and wake up and show up, because you don't have to do much. You've already got the processes and procedures in place, all right? So in any case, back to full circle here. Area is absolutely critical. I can tell you, if you start managing properties all over the planet, and you're in all different kinds of neighborhoods, A, B, C neighborhoods, and D and E neighborhoods too, if Lord God help you if you are, you're going to find yourself getting stretched too thin. You're better off trying, focusing on the properties that you're comfortable with, that your clients are buying. Typically better, C plus type properties. Okay, and quite frankly, you're having an easier time of it. You're not going to have as many headaches. All right, so that's why area is absolutely critical. All right, let's move on here. I think I beat that horse to death. Let's see, what else did I want to? Whoop, we see a little bit of slang there. The editor blurbed this out for me. Thank goodness. Okay. Let's see. When you do operate, let me just go back here just for a second. Okay, hang on one second. When you're growing your business, you obviously want to be more aggressive. And what I would tell you is, oops, I get it. Sorry, I just went too far there. I understand your eagerness to grow and expand rapidly. Okay, I get it completely. But what I will tell you is, if you start taking on properties that you really don't feel that comfortable with, okay, like in the C minus or worse areas, what will happen is it's going to cut into your profit as a property manager. You will collect your fees, but you're going to spend so much more time managing those properties, because there's more headaches there. There's more maintenance and repairs. There's more evictions. There's a lot more calls. Just people calling for all kinds of various reasons that basically are just nuisance calls. We'll talk about nuisance calls next week, by the way, and how you handle that. But in any case, just be forewarned that if you veer outside your comfort zone and you start dipping down into the C minus or worse properties, either you're going to have to collect a much higher fee, or you're going to have to work a lot harder, or both, actually is the case, to keep your profit level up, because you're going to have to pay more people to go out there, take care of things. All kinds of stuff's going to happen. All right, which leads me to the next piece for tonight, screening. Now, before we get into screening, let me slide the panel back over and see if we have any questions so far. Okay, so far we are in good shape. All right. And by the way, guys, I'm giving you, this is considered an overview. When you get the book, you can read it and spend more time and go into a lot more detail. I just want to cover the highlights and do it in 2 sessions. I'm just going to go over the most critical things tonight, how you get started in the process of screening, for example, and we'll talk about that and why that is absolutely so critical, because screening is what's going to make or break your property management business, okay? All right, so let's talk about screening here. Make sure you have your pens and pencils ready. If I could say there's one thing that will have the biggest impact on your property management business, it's going to be screening. All right. There's a lot to this process, and you can read all the details to see, step by step what you actually should be doing. But I will tell you, as a general rule, if you put a lot of emphasis on the front end of this screening process, the back end and all other related activities are going to go a lot more smoothly. Okay. So, in any case, when you're first screening, okay, and by the way, we're going to get into advertising and marketing here in a little bit. Let's say you've advertised, you've marketed, and you start attracting people. People are calling you, okay? There are some easy things you can do, like use National Tenant Network, NTN, to screen people. They'll give you a full report. It'll basically be credit. It'll be their public record. In other words, if they've been in trouble with the law. It'll be their rental history, where they've lived and how often have they moved, okay? And also if there's any evictions on them, it'll tell you that, okay? So it gives you all kinds of neat stuff. Also, it gives you information. You can use it to validate their employment, by the way. So a great little system. Generally speaking, once you start to grow, you're gonna end up having your own account with one of the screening businesses, and you can reduce your cost of your application fees, of screening dramatically. So when you get an application, you're going to run a report on these folks. You don't just run credit. You run a full-blown report: credit, public history, rental history, so forth. Okay? What I'm getting at is when you get big enough where you can afford to have your own account, it's going to cut your costs dramatically as far as how much you're spending for each credit report. Okay? So instead of you collecting 50 and you're paying out 30, now you can collect 50 and only pay out 10 or 15 per report. Okay? So, in any case, when you get this this report back, you have to look at it thoroughly. Okay? And I will tell you, if you have anybody with evictions on their report, I would not entertain them. I know that seems strict and harsh, but you know what? I'm not going to take a chance. If they got evicted from somewhere else, why am I going to put them in my place and take that chance? It's just, you are in a profit business, and when you start taking risks like that, every time you do that, you're increasing the odds of having some problems down the road, which usually show up in the form of uncollected rents or exorbitant fees to clean up after people and make repairs and so forth and so on. In any case, you also want to look and see, look at their credit, to see if they've been evicted, look at their public records. Now, generally speaking, anybody that has a felony offense, I'm not going to rent to them. Okay. Any time somebody's been involved in a felony, that's not a good thing. And I know it seems harsh again, but the fact is you don't want to evict these folks. And here's one of the things that will trip you up. When a spouse will do the application, for example, he or she will fill out the report, put their social security number on there, you run the report, and you'll find out later that they actually have someone else with them, a spouse, a boyfriend, what have you. Anybody over the age of 18, you absolutely want to get their social security number, and you absolutely want to run a separate report just on them. This is what trips up a lot of landlords, a lot of property managers. Okay, is they get tricked into thinking they're renting to one nice person, only to find out 3 months later they let the big bad boyfriend in. He starts to cause problems. Okay, so in any case, some of the things you'll hear from people when it comes to evictions is, well, it really wasn't my fault. The landlord was a jerk. He never took care of the place. The place was a mess. Blah blah blah. You're going to hear that a lot. Okay, for people who've been evicted, because it's not their fault. It's somebody else's fault. Don't even let yourself get involved with that conversation. It's just not worth it. Okay, so those are the biggies: public record, evictions. Okay, now when it comes to the credit, somebody might have a low credit score, but if you look at their records, what you want to do is look at the details and see, have they paid their rent, have they paid their gas and electric bill, and in some cases water. Okay, because if they paid those, I really don't care if they, didn't turn in a library book on time, or they, had some parking tickets they didn't pay. I'm not concerned about that. What I'm concerned about is their propensity to pay for the necessities of life: food, shelter, clothing. And when it comes to shelter, of course, you're not just looking at the rent, you're also looking at usually gas and electric and so forth. So in any case, let's say their credit rate is passable, but you see on the report that they have habitually not paid their gas or electric, or they've had accounts closed on them. I probably will not rent to them. Okay. And here's why. Let's say they get the electricity shut off, or the water shut off, or the gas shut off. Let's say gas, and it's in the wintertime. Now they have no heat, and your water pipes freeze. You see where I'm going with this? The other thing, too, is the fact that they have been delinquent in the past or have accounts closed. Maybe it's just a matter of time before they realize, I need to hold off on paying my rent, and they're paying their rent late. And then you and your owner are left there holding the bags. So just be careful of their credit report. Sometimes you have to dig deeper and ask further questions. Okay. Let's see. Where they've lived and how long they've lived there. Very, very important. Okay. I like to see tenant histories where people have lived in their place for 3 years or more. Always want to see a minimum of 1 year tenant history. But if they've been tenants for a long, long time, I like to see that they've been living at their places for several years, not just 1 year, because you don't want to keep having to advertise or re-rent this place every year, right? So, in any case, let's say you look on their rental history, what they call their domicile history, where they've lived, and they've been jumping all around, all right? That is a real bad sign. It's a red flag, and you should avoid those people typically at all costs, all right? Now, let me give you one trick that people try to pull on you, all right? Let's say their rental history is not very clear. They're going to give you on their application the current landlord and the prior landlord. What I learned to do is don't just call the current landlord, call the prior landlord too, because you're no longer renting to this person and they may be more candid with you, all right? I've even gone as far as looking at the rental history, seeing where this person's lived over the last several years, and gone back 3 and 4 landlords ago, only to find out that, yep, that person was a disaster and I shouldn't rent to them. The current landlords are maybe trying to paint a rosy picture so that they can get rid of the person and dump that problem in your lap, all right? And here's one of the tricks that they do. And here's how you can trip them up on their trick. Let's say they give you a fictitious landlord, which can and will happen from time to time, all right? That's why you want to call these people. You call them up, and if you suspect that it's a fictitious landlord, let's say on the application they put that they were paying $750 in rent. What I'll do is when I'm talking to the landlord who's supposed to be giving me a referral on this, a reference on this guy, I'll say, hey, look, looks like they've been paying $650 per month. And a decent landlord would say, oh, no, wait a second. No, they weren't paying $650, they were paying $750. Well, the fictitious landlord is not going to have a clue what they were paying. They're just going to go along with whatever you say. They're going to say, oh, yeah, $650, they paid it every month, right on time. Well, now you just busted your prospective tenant. And not only that, you busted the fictitious landlord. Just be aware that that's one of the tricks people will pull on you to get past the tenant history, okay? The next thing I like to look at is where they've been working. It's not on here per se, but did they have a good work history? They've been working at their current employer for 3 or more years. That's usually a really good sign, okay? Again, minimum 1 year, but 3 years is usually a very good sign. All right, that's screening. Now, before we get into marketing and advertising, let me pull my panel back over and see how we're doing on questions. So far, we're caught up. So for those of you who indicated last week that you want to get more information on property management, is this helping you? Be having this open dialogue and just getting focused on a couple of things like screening, having systems in place, and now we'll get into marketing advertising. We'll do more next week. Okay, don't worry. I just want to make sure that what I'm saying you're taking notes on and it's helping you. You can see more clearly what this really involves, all right? It's good old-fashioned, it's work is what it is. The property management is, I would say it's simple in concept, but it's not easy. I mean, you're going to have to work at it until you get up and running, and then you can start to delegate and hire people to do things for you, okay? Okay, let's see. Okay, so far everybody's saying yes, this is, oh good, we got some people saying they want to dig into this further. So, all right, so let me slide my panel back over. Hang on one second, and I'm going to get down into marketing and advertising. All right, now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on marketing and advertising to find tenants, okay? Obviously, in the Investor Agent Training Program, there's a whole section on marketing and advertising that's focused on acquiring people and properties, all right? Marketing and advertising are actually two separate things. I don't want to read all that to you because you're going to read that yourself. All right. But the bottom line is you have to think in terms of who your market is and how can you reach them. Okay. So, again, marketing is more about learning and understanding, your marketplace, your properties, your people, the prospective tenants, things like that. Advertising has to do more to do with your message and your media, what we call the methods. Okay, so we're going to focus a little bit on the message and the media right now, the actual methods of getting your point across and getting attention. One of my most favorite things to do is when I'm looking to acquire new tenants, is to offer a tenant referral program to your existing tenants. And you need to be careful because you want to offer incentive, but you got to tie it to actions. And so what I'm getting at is here, you may have tenants who are good and you might have tenants who you wish were better. You need to be careful who you're offering this to. You can't discriminate, okay, but financing or people's financial wherewithal is not a protected class. So in any case, you go to your good tenants, the ones you like, have been there for years, they've been great, and tell them, hey, if you bring in other people just like you, I will give you $50. And it's worth it, because if you were to pay another agent, you would pay a hefty leasing fee, okay, number one. And number two is you don't have as much certainty about who you're getting. But if you're renting to a good set of tenants who you like, they've been there for a while, they're paying their rent on time, they're keeping up with the place, absolutely, birds of a feather flock together. So offer them something. I offer them $50, for example, okay? And you have to tell them that there's rules to the game. But just like anybody else in life, and who wouldn't want to earn a quick $50 just by passing a name along, all right? So in any case, excellent way. And by the way, you don't do this all the time. I mean, you do it all the time, but you don't advertise it all the time. You don't want to burn people out. So what I like to do is usually around Thanksgiving and Christmas, I will offer a tenant referral program, all right? It's a time of year when things kind of slow down. People are looking to fork out a lot of money to buy gifts, and they see they can make a quick $50. You might get some pretty good referrals out of that, right? I always advocate people buying rentals around hospital systems and university systems, which leads me to the next one here. And these are, again, there's a lot of other mainstream techniques you can use to advertise. I'm going to give you some ones that a lot of people just simply aren't thinking of, or they're just simply not using. So using the bulletin boards in your local colleges and universities is an excellent way to drum up good tenants. I know some of you are thinking, I wouldn't rent any place to any college student anywhere, anytime. And I hear you. One of my former bankers was a landlord in an area where there was a huge university, had a lot of units there. And he used to do a lot of neat things to basically protect himself and protect his properties and ensure huge, massive profits. And boy, was he good at it. But in any case, all colleges and universities have public boards, basically information boards, right? So what you do is you go find the bulletin boards, typically in the student hall, okay, and often in the dorm rooms also, and you can put in there advertisement for your vacancy, all right? Some universities and colleges also have an online system, and what you do is you call them up, and typically it's free. They'll call you, call them, you get the rules and regulations, they'll give you the website to go to and a login and password, and you can promote your vacant rentals online. And it's a wonderful way to get exposure, because online you can obviously put a lot of pictures, more description, things like that, and also put in there an online application that they can fill out, okay? Or maybe even just one they can download, print, fill out, scan, and email back to you. I love colleges and universities. They have bulletin boards online and offline, and you also get parents to co-sign, okay, on those leases. And if, let's say you have a 4-bedroom house you're renting around a college, you want to get individual leases from every single student renting. So you have 4 students renting a 4-bedroom home. They each got a bedroom. Each one of them is going to sign their own individual lease. And all of those leases, by the way, are going to be basically joint held. The tenants will be held jointly and severally. So if one guy moves out, one of the roommates moves out, the other roommates have to foot the bill. That's one approach to do it. Or you can just simply do 4 individual leases. I generally don't like that because now you got 4 entities in there, and they're generally not, thinking about cooperating and communicating and coordinating and all that. If you have 4 people who are true roommates because they're friends, now you have a lot more leverage. Yes, you might have some parties, but you can get all the parents to co-sign every single lease, and all the students are held severably and jointly should one of the tenants leave. Okay. And again, so enough about colleges and universities. Hospital systems are another great source. Typically the teaching universities where they have medical schools tied to the hospital. You'll have interns, residents. You'll have undergraduates, graduate students. You'll have nurses. Awesome tenant base. Okay. So to always use your colleges and universities. All right, next one, Craigslist. And I know that seems obvious. Everybody's thinking, well, heck, I can use Craigslist any day of the week, and that's true. But a lot of people are not using Craigslist anymore. And I will tell you, one of the big things about Craigslist is it's not being used properly. A lot of agents are just using it Monday through Friday, and they're advertising in the morning rush hour, evening rush hour, during lunch, thinking they're going to get a lot of exposure that way, and you will get some exposure. But the reality is, and we know this statistically, if you advertise on Craigslist on Saturday and Sunday mornings, you get far greater turnout, a far greater response rate, because most everybody is not advertising, oddly enough, at those time frames. I have no idea why, but it's just something we recognize, and we take advantage of it. So if you're ever interested in Craigslist ads, just go on the Craigslist, pull them up, and see what you think. In our training material, I think we give you some examples of Craigslist ads. Also, when you're looking at Craigslist ads for other rentals, have you ever thought of texting the number on the ad, because it's probably a landlord or even the owner sometimes, and say, hey, I see you're renting your apartment. Have you ever thought of selling? And you can potentially get sales from that. Just a little sidebar technique that you should use for when you're using Craigslist, okay? Okay, Craigslist, and I'm not going to go into a big dissertation tonight on how to use Craigslist. You can figure that out yourself, or go into our training material on the member section, and you'll see a couple of webinars devoted to Craigslist, okay? Okay, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Obviously, Facebook is all about the people you're connected with. Many of you are connected with people locally, so you just simply put it out there. Hey, I've got a place for rent. If you know anybody looking to rent, please let me know. I'll shoot you a gift certificate for a local restaurant, okay? You can certainly tweet it. If you're big on tweeting, matter of fact, I think the guy I'm interviewing next week and speaking at his group in Lexington, Kentucky, Daniel David, I think he was huge on Twitter. When he first started, I think in 1 week he had like 5,000 tweets, and he started generating referrals all over the U.S. and Canada. It was amazing. LinkedIn is not that great, but you can certainly use it, okay? What you don't want to do, though, is abuse any of these, because if you do abuse them, not only will you be unfriended, unliked, and unconnected, you'll be unsuccessful, all right? So you want to use these responsibly and appropriately. Okay. All right, churches, another great source of possible tenants. So you can put an ad in your church bulletin, okay? Enough said there. That will cost you a few bucks typically, but not much. And it's a great way to attract potentially great tenants, okay? Let's see, grocery stores. We've used that a lot. You can put a flyer up on a grocery store, on the bulletin board inside the grocery store. And what you do is, if you don't want your flyer being taken down from the first person who sees it, at the bottom, write your phone number in vertically, straight up and down, so you have 20 phone numbers across the bottom, and then you cut up with a pair of scissors up through the phone numbers, and then everybody can take the phone number, peel it, tear it off, and then right in there, handwrite the address or your name. You're going to have your phone number automatically, and you can get some good leads that way for possible tenants. And again, it's a great idea. Next one, really good one. This was one of my all-time favorites, and that is local restaurants. Okay, so what you could do is a couple things actually. I always suggest you get to become familiar with your local restaurateurs. You should frequent those establishments yourself, number one, because they'll let you leave your business card, things like that. You can maybe buy advertising space on their placemats. But more importantly, they usually have a place up on by the counter, by the cash register, where you can put your credit card, or maybe a stack of them. But also another good idea is, let's say you go back to your referral program. What you could do is you tell the restaurateur, hey, look, give me a bunch of coupons, buy one, get one free, and I'll bring people to your restaurant. So what you do is you offer those as an incentive to your good tenants to bring in other tenants. You say, look, I will give you a gift certificate for a restaurant where you buy one meal, get one free. In fact, I'll give you two of them, one for you and one for the friend you bring in to rent the vacant apartment. Okay? Awesome way to use restaurants. They definitely want to, especially newer ones, they want to drum up business in the area. And their philosophy is, hey, you bring in one tenant, particularly in an area where there's a lot of tenants, like an apartment complex, they'll bring other people with them, all right? So in any case, there's all kinds of things you can do there, but the main thing is just remember business cards, placemat advertisements, and also get a gift certificate or coupons for the restaurant, and use that to bring in and reward tenants, and even the new tenants who sign up with you. Say, look, go ahead and move in within the month, and I will give you a free meal. You can give them a voucher that you pay for ahead of time too. So restaurants are a great source, by the way, great leverage point. Okay, finally we're here. The ones that most people use and never think twice of. Local publications. I just want to stick with this for a second because this is really important. We do not advocate the use of large publications, okay, like your big city paper. New York Times, Washington Post, Baltimore Sun, you know them all. Every Toronto has it, LA, San Francisco, every town, every city has their own publication. We generally avoid those because they just simply don't give us the return for our money. Years ago, newspapers were great, but with the onset of the internet, if you look at any real estate section in your local newspaper, you'll see it's a fraction of what it was a generation ago. Okay, so in any case, the publications we do like are the small local publications. All right, typically they're referred to as penny saver, green sheet. They're local community papers that focus on the community. They'll give you local stories. You'll have local advertisers, and they'll have a section typically on real estate or rentals. And you can put your ads in there, and they're usually very, very inexpensive, way less expensive than the big publications, okay? So for a few dollars, you can actually advertise rentals. Now, let's say you're growing, and let's say you've got a few hundred rentals, okay? One of the things you could do is run a regular ad or a series of regular ads in the paper. So instead of just every week calling in a new ad, they will give you a price discount if you run an ad for a long period of time, like 3 months or 6 months or a year. Now, initially you might be thinking, why would I run an ad for a year when I'll probably rent the place in the first week? What you do is if you have several hundred units or a lot of units of the same type, a lot of 3 bedrooms, a lot of 2 bedrooms, a lot of 1 bedrooms, run an ad for each of those characteristics and just say 1 bedrooms for rent, price range, 600 to 800, something like that, whatever your marketplace is, okay? And guess what? There are parts of, I'm in Brooklyn right now. In Queens, we study Queens throughout the year 2016. Rents in Queens has gone up a lot, and in the last few months, it's actually almost gone up vertically. It's amazing the increase in rents. Okay, so, and again, it's back to this. You can place a regular ad in there to run it for a year or even just 6 months or 9 days for a 3-bedroom. Just keep it a little bit generic, but you want to make it appealing to people. You want to have something in there that what's in it for them, right? So you want to list benefits, not just features, right? Benefits will be, shopping close by, schools close by, universities close by, hospitals close by, things like that, transportation close by, all right? Feature would be 1 bedroom, 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom, 2nd floor, 3rd floor. keep features to a minimum and focus on benefits. Focus on an emotional appeal. What do people care about? Well, they care about how far do they have to go to get to the grocery store. They care about if they have children, how far do they have to walk to get to school. Okay, they certainly want to know and have a need for a 3-bedroom or a 2-bedroom or a 1-bedroom, but those are features, not benefits. So in any case, back to what I was saying. If you have a bunch of 3 bedrooms, just put an ad in there for 3 bedrooms and run it every single week, and you'll get a reduced rate because you're running it. It's a volume discount. Okay. All right. There's other tricks to the trade here, like putting boxes around your ads. There's whole sections on this in your training material. All right. So in any case, that's advertising. Let's see. Let me go back real quick here before we jump into the next subject. I just want to make sure. Let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and. It's 4 minutes till. Let me bring my panel back over. Let me do a quick pulse check here before we go into another subject, because we're getting close here, and I don't want to dig it into another subject if you guys think this is good for this evening. All right, let me do this. Let me go back to the table of contents and see how we're doing and what we have left for this first section. Marketing average, section 8, charitable. Okay, let's do this. Let's save section 8 and charitable organizations for later. It's a completely separate subject that I want to spend some time on. We're in a good breaking point, but so right now, any of you who've been thinking about this, you have a pretty good starting point. You know that you have to have systems in place. You know what the basic process is of getting started with your systems for marketing and advertising, systems for repairs and maintenance, okay, systems for screening, systems for marketing and advertising. We already mentioned that. All right. So let me check for questions before we wrap things up for the evening. One more time. Let's go back to the beginning. I think we're okay. Let's see. Okay. All right. Here's one. Hey Gary, I am advertising. I am managing properties for another person. I have been approached by other people. Is it okay for me to go ahead and start managing those? Well, remember what I said in the beginning. I just want to caution you. The answer technically is no. Okay? You can manage properties for one other person, but as soon as you manage for other people, you absolutely have to let your broker know and make sure that they're on board with it. Their errors and omissions policy has to cover it. That is absolutely critical, because if something goes wrong in property management and you're an agent and you're working for a broker, which most of you are, and somebody files a complaint and your errors and omissions policy doesn't cover property management, you could be left out on a limb, you and your broker, and boy, are they going to be upset, because this is a big deal. Okay, so as soon as you start managing for more than one person, you've got to talk to your broker. Number one, make sure it's okay, and if it's not, find out if it's because of errors and omissions insurance. And if it is, you'll have to set up a separate LLC. We actually can show you how to do that. Separate broker ID, separate tax ID, obviously separate errors and omissions insurance policy. And you can hire any broker to be broker of record. You actually don't have to be the broker. You can own the company and hire someone to be your broker of record. If you look at most KW offices, that's what they're doing. The ownership is not the broker. The broker's a person they hire that serves a certain role. They just have to be broker of record, primarily is what they're doing. So in any case, just keep that in mind. Remember, always disclose when it comes to anything in real estate. So let me check here. Looks like you do have okay, where can I find the materials to study this closer? And this is Krista. Hi, Krista. If you could, Krista, I'm going to just shoot an email to Beverly, Beverly at myinvestmentservices.com. Let her know you want the book on turning rental problems into real estate profits. You can read the entire book. It's yours for all of you. Get it for free, that is. I would start there. And then when you're ready to go further, like Krista, if you think you really want to do this, you and I should have a strategy call. So let's go ahead and do that. You can email me, Gary at myinvestmentservices.com. We'll set up a time and we'll have a basic strategy session. and see where we go from there. I'm not gonna try to talk you into or out of anything. I'm gonna give you questions to ask that you need to answer, and that'll help you determine what you do next. Okay, I'll walk you through that process. So if you could do that, that would be wonderful. And that's a great question, by the way. I know a number of you want to do this. That's why we're going over the subject. So, okay, guys, that is what I had for tonight. We will go over Section 8 and charitable organizations. Next week, we'll get into the lease, security deposits, smokers, pets, protected classes, so forth and so on. Okay. In the meantime, I appreciate you being on tonight. I appreciate your participation. We've had a lot of great one-on-ones lately. I've actually had people come to meet me in person. Hans from the I guess Woodbridge, New Jersey. I know it's New Jersey. I think it's Woodbridge. Came to visit me yesterday. Had a great dinner, and he's making great use of the booklet. Meeting Faisal tomorrow from the same office. He's driving up to meet me at the Brooklyn KW office, and we're gonna chat for a bit and get a bite to eat, and then I'll head off and do another webinar. But I like doing that. So if I'm coming to your area and you want to go grab a bite to eat, please let me know, because I'd love to do it. Okay, guys, so I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week and weekend, and I will see you next week, which actually happens to be Monday. The next week webinar actually will be on Monday. Okay? All right, you guys take care, and God bless you. Bye-bye.